They're very different.
We're going to go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? In the back? You left the front row. All right. Thanks for joining us this evening. I am the board's executive secretary, so I will be facilitating the work session tonight. My role is to help guide the discussion, keep us on schedule, and ensure the agenda moves forward smoothly so that our time together is productive. Tonight's goal is for the board and the superintendent to engage in open discussion around the topics from the advertised agenda. It's important to note that no official decisions or votes will take place this evening, and this session is meant to explore options as the first step in a process that will include further community input, and formal board action will be at a later date. The board and superintendent also welcome public comment following discussion of the agenda topics. Comments should remain respectful, focused, and centered on long-term success of the district. While public input is valuable and carefully considered, this portion is intended not for open dialogue or debate. If you wish to comment, please be sure you sign in up here because I'll be collecting that shortly. Before we go into our background information from the superintendent and business manager, the board has received a list of questions from a community member they would like to address. These will be read aloud by Amanda Locke, our president, and answered by the superintendent and business manager. Go ahead.
I'm just going to start at the top of these questions and work through them. Can you all hear me? Question number 1, have we taken into consideration the idea that was brought up by Jackie Knafel about going back to getting our SROs from the county? This seemed like a great idea with major cost savings.
So we've talked to Sheriff Weber about it, and it used to be financially a viable option, but now it is not, and they do not have the manpower as well to staff the position. He also brought up that he wouldn't be able to do this for each school district, and for you board members that are up here, he did send a memo that outlines some of it. So like in 2017, 2018, the cost for a school corporation for an SRO was about $31,914. In 2021, that jumped to $76,100. And then he goes on to explain that with today's current cost to place a full-time deputy in a school, along with hiring a replacement deputy for patrol duties to take calls within the county, would be greater due to the increase in salary, pension, vehicle maintenance, and the cost of providing vehicles. So we did explore that, and we are providing it cheaper at this point.
The next question, have we received any more info on getting the $1.4 million anticipated rebate with the solar panel project that we enrolled in?
Central Noble is currently working with Baker Tilly to submit the proper documentation for the residential clean energy credit. Unfortunately, due to changes at the federal level, rebate amounts are less than originally anticipated. For phase 1 solar, Central Noble is anticipating receiving between $300,000 to $400,000 back in rebate credit. Central Noble, an official rebate amount should be known by November 15th, 2025 for phase 1 solar project. The phase 2 solar project is not yet board approved and has been scaled back largely since day 1 of this conversation 2 years ago. Phase 2 now only includes a consideration for additional solar on Central Noble Elementary's roof instead of including a project with additional panels on the junior senior high as well. If Central Noble continues with the current proposed phase 2 solar project, an additional $700,000 in rebate credit is anticipated.
The next question, how much is it costing the school corporation to continue to pay their portion of insurance for the next 2 years for an employee that was made to retire? She was not replaced, but others receive stipends, raises for the additional workload that they will encounter the loss of this staff member. How much is this costing us, and how has this saved us any money?
The staff member that is being referred to was given the option to take another position within the corporation for the same rate of pay or take an early retirement option. The staff member chose the early retirement option. This option included a severance package where the corporation is paying its portion of a single insurance plan until the individual turns 65. This is less than a 2-year commitment from the corporation. This employee was making a base salary of $31,274.80 with an additional corporation benefits totaling $16,724.16 for a total compensation package of $47,998.96. The corporation will now pay $9,562.32 for its portion of a single insurance plan for this individual until they turn 65, and has given a $2,000 stipend to the staff member who absorbed all the ECA treasurer duties. This totals $11,562.32. The difference between the total compensation for this former employee and what we are paying now is a corporation savings of $36,436.08.
The maintenance person who has now retired was working a 40-hour work week. You took this 40-hour-a-week position and turned it into a 50-hour position. Job share with 2 different individuals at 25 hours per week. With the additional 10 hours of pay and the school paying for COBRA for the employee's wife for the next 2 years, how can this be cost savings? How much is the monthly COBRA premium for this individual? Also, no one remembers seeing a job posting for this position. Was the job posted internally or externally? Also, are the job share individuals receiving any benefits since they are working over 24 hours a week, or are they just receiving their hourly wage?
So the 2 individuals who were hired for the grounds and maintenance position were hired up to 25 hours per week, depending on the needs of the corporation during that time. If the needs are low, then the hours will be lessened. So the former position ended with a base salary of $56,939.76. The worst possible salary scenario with the 2 part-time positions and a maximum of 50 hours per week would be $52,000 per year. Even at the worst case scenario, the corporation would still save $4,939.76 in salary alone. With the payroll data from 8/25, the position was paid out for a total of 25 hours, as only 1 employee had worked during the time frame for that pay period. The payroll data from 9/10 shows the position was paid out for a total of 44.5 hours for 1 week and 43 hours for the next week. So far, the position is not paid at the maximum of 50 hours per week, and we do not foresee or anticipate that there will be many weeks that do in fact meet those maximum hours. It will ultimately create a greater salary savings for the position than what was quoted above. The 2 part-time positions do not qualify for benefits, which greatly saves the corporation money. The former employee is still responsible for a single coverage health plan payment, with the corporation covering the remaining COBRA monthly balance for his spouse. This retirement agreement is in effect until the spouse turns 65, which is a period of less than 2 years. Prior to this, the corporation paid $15,372.72 a year for an employee plus spouse health care coverage alone. With the current agreement, the corporation is responsible for $6,374.88 a year for a single health care coverage plan. The healthcare savings for this position alone equals $8,997.84 a year. Since it is a classified position, the corporation did not have to post the position, as we had 2 highly qualified people willing to work it. One of the individuals was often called upon by maintenance staff to do contracted work at a contracted rate that couldn't be done in-house. With that individual now on staff, there is another savings to the corporation.
Maybe I missed that. How much are you guys paying then a month for COBRA?
We don't have it broken down by month, but we have that the yearly cost will be $6,374.88.
Next question. We hired a teacher from West Noble that has 30 years of experience. How much did this cost our district? Could we not have hired a newer teacher for about half of the expense? I realize the experience would not be there, but all we have heard about is cost savings, and I'm not sure how this was a cost savings decision.
Right, so those of you who would be directly involved in hiring decisions right now, or if you're not aware of the current challenges that schools across the state and the nation are facing in attracting quality candidates, the reality is that the applications for teaching positions are no longer plentiful like they once were. Finding strong candidates for any position is increasingly difficult. In fact, we had no other applicants for this position at the senior high, and only 1 additional application for the language arts position at the junior high. We did reach out to Trine and talk to their education department about recent graduates. They gave us 3 names. Of the 3, only 1 returned our calls, and they'd already taken a job. Our goal is to hire the best person available to meet the needs of our students and to do everything we can to make that happen. In this case, with Mr. Howell's pending retirement, we're not only filling a teaching role, but also working to sustain the strength of our theater program, an area we deeply value as part of our school community and a program that continues to draw students to Central Noble. The teacher we hired cost the corporation $70,000, which is on par with our other teachers of that amount of experience. She brings not only years of experience, but a collaborative relationship that was already established with our theater program. and a commitment to Central Noble that has been a long time in the making. All these combine to provide immediate stability and expertise for students as well as our fine arts department. While it's true that the newer teacher may have been hired at a lower salary, there's no guarantee that a less experienced candidate would have been prepared to take on the responsibilities of this unique position, even if they applied, which they did not. This was not simply about cost savings. It was about balancing fiscal responsibility with the quality of education and opportunities we provide. I'm sure most would recognize how important it is that we hire the best people possible. This hire represents an investment in both stability and quality, and we're confident that it reflects a thoughtful investment in our students and our programs.
How many experienced teachers do we have that fall under the $45,000 threshold for new incoming teachers? Yet we still give out raises, stipends, bonuses, etc. to administrators for the extra work they have been given. Where are the raises, stipends, bonuses, etc. for the teachers that have 26 plus kids in their classrooms and the extra work that they and other teachers have been given this school year? There does not seem to be any additional money for those individuals, but we always find it for administrators.
We currently have 21 teachers who fall under the $45,000 threshold for new or incoming teachers. On the administrator side, it's important to note that administrators are only ever given the same raises that teachers get per their contracts. The only difference is that this year, the high school administrators were given temporary stipends because they're taking on a second full-time job on top of their daily responsibilities, covering all the athletic director duties after that position was eliminated. As of Tuesday, Mr. Mannon has worked 80 extra hours, Mrs. Hoover 62 extra hours, and Mrs. Weiss has worked 35 extra hours, and the fall season isn't over yet. The athletic director's total compensation package was about $109,000. Instead of replacing that position, we're paying out $20,000 in stipends split among the 3 administrators to cover those duties for strictly the administrators. That means the district is actually saving a substantial amount of money. These stipends are not just extra pay. They're tied directly to doing a completely separate job outside of their contracted hours. For teachers carrying heavier classroom loads, several who have 26 or more students were provided full-time aides to help with the workload. No teacher has been assigned a completely separate job on top of their teaching duties. And it wouldn't make sense to cut the salary for teachers who happen to have 18 or fewer students, just as we wouldn't want to ignore the fact that other supports are provided where class sizes are larger. In short, we do have 21 teachers under 45,000 and continue to work toward lifting that floor. At the same time, the administrator stipends are not bonuses, but savings-driven adjustments to cover a full additional job that would otherwise cost the district much more.
Central Noble has been leasing a bus garage for years, and this lease ended in January. What were the plans for a bus garage since the admin's school board knew this was coming up? And how many years have we been leasing this garage, and how much has it cost the district? It was mentioned that we were wanting to use the solar panel rebate money for this, but do we have plans in the school district? Have plans if the school district does not receive the rebate?
The bus garage lease was a rolling lease that renewed automatically each January. Our partnership with Leatherman's has been long-standing, but we respect that they are now wanting to expand their own business, which has caused us to need to look for our own bus garage. Central Noble has looked at 2 other options within the district boundaries, but neither were big enough and provided the space that we need for our bus garage. And one was even going to cost us more than what the corporation was currently paying for rent. Central Noble is currently pursuing a bond that will allow us to build our own bus garage if approved. This would take the cost of the lease away, and then we will own and operate our own business, our own bus garage, which gives us stability for our future. As a general reminder, bond funds can only be used for projects that are capital in nature and cannot be spent on salaries or everyday expenses.
The daycare, a great idea, and we got a grant for it. We all know it is hard to find good quality childcare in this area. The issue is, why do we have a daycare at the elementary if we do not have the capacity to house our own children that we are supposed to be educating? We had to move the 5th graders to the junior senior high due to lack of classroom space at the elementary. The daycare had 2 rooms and then 3 rooms. Where is it going to stop since we are now opening it to the public next year? Should our own students not have priority? The ones that we are getting paid to educate at Central Noble.
5th grade was moved in anticipation of a possible consolidation to one campus. If a decision is made for all Central Noble students to be on the Albion campus, then the YMCA preschool and Central Noble Early Learning Center daycare rooms will need to be moved to a different location. Decisions are not set in stone here, but if the space is needed for Central Noble Elementary, at Central Noble Elementary for Central Noble students, then they will absolutely get priority for those classrooms. Unfortunately, a standalone daycare building is not in the cards for us at this time, as one of our major grants did not go through. CN leadership is working on finding a permanent place for the CN ELC to be housed for the good of our staff and our community. The decision to start a daycare came about as CN was losing staff who couldn't find suitable daycare for their own children. This decision has actually helped us retain several staff members over the last few years due to offering high quality, easily accessible childcare.
Did we spend money on an ice cream machine and golf cart?
So as far as athletics goes, you'll see things updated or purchased as those needs don't go away. The ice cream machine was donated as well as the golf cart. Our old golf cart was broken beyond repair and is needed and used in many different ways. The ice cream machine will be used at events to generate more money for extracurricular activities, which in turn will in turn be used on students in those activities. The athletic department has its own ECA fund, which it maintains and spends out of. It's not corporation money. The athletic department is working very hard to continue to get donations and sponsorships to continue to cut costs.
I think that concludes that portion.
All right. At this time, Robin Morgan and Kim Gardner will provide background information to help frame discussions. They will cover current enrollment and future projections, building capacities, costs and conditions, as well as financial impacts. Board members, you are encouraged during this time to take notes and prepare questions for the topics of discussion section that will come next.
Okay, so covering enrollment, currently we set at about 1,108 students, give or take a few. We're still trying to figure out between West Noble and Cherubusco whose student is whose, but we're right about there. Our projected from our demographic study that we did, we were supposed to have somewhere around 1,053 students. One of the things that those projections can't do is predict how many out-of-district students move in from surrounding areas to come to school at Central Noble. So we've had quite a few come in based on the projections of the demographic study, which would put us at the more aggressive C-series projections, which had us about 1,114. So if we were to continue on that path, we would stay around there within 10 kids for the next 2 or 3 years before ultimately, if it stays with the C-series projection, in the 28-29 school year would be about 1,155 students.
I'm going to talk a little bit about building capacities, costs, and conditions. So with enrollment at our current levels, the Albion campus would be able to house all Central Noble students. With the move of 5th grade to the junior senior high school, K through 4 could easily fit into the classroom space at the elementary with 3 teachers per grade level, a room for specials, 3 special ed classrooms, and 2 open classrooms, giving the ability to flex 2 grades to 4 teachers if needed. Combining CN students to one campus would require moving our Central Noble Early Learning Center rooms and the YMCA preschool rooms to a different location. We have gathered some utility information and other monthly bill information for the 2024 school year for the primary. Central Noble spent $101,732.48 in utilities for that building. We do know that several of those expenses have increased in 2025, but we wanted a full year of data to look over for any calculations that you do hear about in terms of savings for this evening. Central Noble Primary is in pretty good condition for its age. We do know that there are some bigger projects coming up for that building. The geothermal system is nearing the end of its useful life and will need to be replaced in some capacity. When the original system was put in, it cost over $1 million. So the CN team is reevaluating the system to see what the best plan is for the future, depending on the usage of the building. Central Noble Primary will also need a portion of its roof to be replaced within the next several years. This also depends on the usage of the building. If we are not, the roof, not so much, but the geothermal, we might be able to get a little bit extra time out of it depending on, again, usage of the building. These projects, though, as they are capital in nature, could be paid for with a future bond depending on the needs of the entire district at that time. Now we'll go into some financial impacts. Central Noble has been facing the financial impacts of a period of declining enrollment for several years. This year, our enrollment is looking positive, which is really good for us. But now Central Noble is also facing the financial impact on its operations budget from Senate Bill 1. It is anticipated that Central Noble will see a loss of $950. I can't say that right. Almost $300,000 in 2026, $270,080 in 2027, and $324,580 in 2028 for its operations budget. We hope that the ideas brought forth this evening will help Central Noble leadership come up with a solid plan to get us through a period of financial hardship.
I think one thing to add to that total in 2028 is that we receive about $200,000 in lit money that because of Senate Bill 1 will also be going away. So that'll push us closer to the $500,000 range. In the 28-29 school year.
266,950.
266,900. 270,300. And those numbers are still fluctuating. Those will fluctuate some based on the net assessed value and pending any changes that could be going through the legislators.
So we're looking at about $1 million loss over the next 3 years. Yeah.
Unless there are some changes to Senate Bill 1.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you know how old the geothermal is? You said it's towards the end of its life. When is it here for that?
2011 is what we made it when it was put in. Some other veteran teachers at the primary, if they remember the exact year it was put in.
I think it was 2011, and they had kind of anticipated a 15-year useful life. So
And have we got an estimate for repairs on that end?
we don't yet.
All right, now move on to our agenda items. This is open discussion between the superintendent, business manager, and the board, and they may call on administrators or other staff to provide input as needed. Again, we will be discussing the consideration of consolidating kindergarten and first grade from the Wolf Lake campus to Albion campus, the future of the Wolf Lake campus should a consolidation be approved, and then research and survey of a non-traditional 4-day school week. We will start off with brief presentations, first from Heather Lemon, who's going to go over micro schooling, and then followed by Gabe Stuck on 4-day school week. Heather, if you could come up to the microphone. Oh, it's really heavy. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, now it's on. It says it can't be turned off. That is a false sign. Today I'm going to talk to you about the opportunity to add a micro school to Central Noble and a way to set us apart from other private and public schools in our area. Learning should be a joy and full of excitement. Taylor Caldwell. This quote reminds me why I became a teacher. School was something I just did to get to the next step. I learned how to play the game and I did fine. I didn't find school particularly enjoyable, rather something I had to do to get to college. In my years as a teacher, however, I've sought not to teach, rather to be taught, and to seek the joy in learning. And I propose to you tonight that we offer that for students at Central Noble as well. There are some barriers to enjoying school for some students, and I'd like to share with you a solution to some of those barriers. First, let's look at the issues and concerns, which don't seem as heavy after we just went through all those questions. First, a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't actually fit all. I've talked with several Central Noble parents recently about the option of doing school differently, and each of these parents shared such enthusiasm and eagerness to help make this a reality for their young adult. I would be happy to help you get in touch with some of these parents if you'd like. Their interest and excitement absolutely blew me away. Next, community student partnerships could be strengthened. Let's get our amazing students in connection with our leaders, our business owners, and our community members. Improve attendance. The desire to be at school is certainly a factor for some. And we are experiencing financial challenges, including declining enrollment, a failed referendum, and funding cuts, to name a few. And student apathy is at an all-time high in my teaching career. There is a need for something different for some learners. Situational facts are details about a circumstance that makes a behavior occur. So what makes these issues and concerns occur? The situational facts that I've identified through observation include lack of engagement with learning, lack of desire to come to school, school doesn't connect to the real world for some of our learners, larger class size environment feels unsafe for some, and teaching to the middle when not all are in the middle. This model will allow the teacher to individualize for each learner. So looking at these situational facts, what are the goals of the micro school model? One goal is to restore the joy of learning. For some of you, maybe that sounds cheesy, but to me, to enjoy doing school would have made all the difference. To bring a desire to be at school and to be learning and interacting with knowledge. The opportunity to learn in a way that better suits the individual, and to set Central Noble apart from other schools in our area while also attracting more learners. Let's look at the benefits of implementing a micro school at Central Noble and how these benefits meet the aforementioned goals. A micro school creates a smaller learning community, and I would be proposing to you tonight a school within a school model. Students are part of a smaller cohort with dedicated teachers. This adds options for families, but does not replace what's working for others. Options means our students and families have choices right here at Central Noble. They don't need to go elsewhere to find these or similar offerings. Options means school is more accessible to our students. Options means Central Noble decides what foci the micro school or micro schools will have. For example, there could be an ag focused micro school or performing arts focused micro school. Research shows that parents want something different for their students. Parents want options, and so do our students. In the next 2 slides, I list 5 benefits that I've also connected to our district's strategic plans, district values, and areas of focus. I could have done this with all the benefits, but I thought you might find that a little redundant. Community is built into the very threads of this model. This includes community among peers, but also connecting to the greater Noble County community. This hits district values 1, 2, and 3, and focus areas 2, 3, and 4. Our students benefit by getting into the greater Noble County community where they will build their skills, knowledge, character, and connections. This will prepare them in big ways for whatever comes after high school. This is covered by district values 1, 2, 3, and 4, and focus areas 2, 3, and 4. Those students who need a smaller setting will benefit in the way of stronger relationships with peers, teachers, and families. This improves the culture of our school. District values 1, 2, and 3, and focus areas 2, 3, and 4. Our district benefits by providing options for our students and families rather than providing a one-size-fits-all education. This sets us apart from other schools in the area. District value 1, focus areas 3 and 4. We would be providing a high-quality option that would be free to our students and families. District values 2, 3, and 4, and focus areas 2, 3, and 4. In just 2 slides, 5 bullet points, I've shown you how this micro school model hits all 4 district values and all focus areas except for area 1, which is communication and has a focus on administrative duties like having a website update and those sorts of things. Other benefits include increased enrollment and retention by attracting families who are seeking a more individualized learning for their students and offering an option in order to retain families who are also interested in a more personalized approach. In a 2024 survey by the National School Choice Foundation showed that 72% of parents are considering a different school for at least one child. This illustrates a growing trend in alternatives to conventional schooling. We would be a part of the school choice movement that has already begun. Another benefit area includes academic growth, and this may be one of the more compelling results that I've come across in my research so far. When micro schools reported their academic growth, it was found that 81% report between 1 to 2 years of academic gains in one school year. That's 2 years of growth in just one school year. We move through the issues into the benefits to our district, and now I'd like to share with you a high-level overview of what this model would look like. First, it would have an open methodology, would be meeting the needs of our students with no particular philosophy at the center. Rather, all philosophies and methods are available as needed. That could include problem-based learning, STEM and STEAM, Montessori, Waldorf, etc., or any combination of these philosophies, depending on what our learners need. We have a floor, but no ceiling. There's room to grow and develop in ways only limited by our own creativity. Next, the micro school would have a flexible schedule. So I created sort of a mocked up schedule for you. This would be, I created this as considered at the junior senior high as a school within a school model. Students would arrive and attend Cougar U as usual, and then they would go into a community launch time that's led by students. So this can include discussions on current events or books or ideas, whatever is pertinent to the students at that time. It's a time for them to have a community discussion. So they grow as a group of peers, as a cohort, and they are enriching each other with their discussion. Next, there's a goal setting time with a teammate. Having an accountability partner is key here. They meet daily to discuss if the goals were met the previous day, and then also to formulate goals for the current day. They hold each other accountable. After that, the morning work cycle begins. The morning work cycle is reserved for core skills. So they'll be getting like reading, math, writing, social studies, some might need science. And they have choices in how these skills are attained. So they could go out and take a class in the traditional classroom. They could be taking classes on a learning platform. They could be getting classes in small groups or as an individual from the teacher in the micro school. And then the afternoon work cycle would be reserved for passion work and apprenticeships. And I think this is where the magic happens in my mind. This is a time when students dive deep into something that they are passionate about. They show mastery of the skills through this work as well. The passion project would be very individualized and based on each student's interest. This can include researching, designing, marketing, and selling a product. They could be solving a problem that's important to them or their community. They could be innovating and inventing. They could be working with business leaders, owners, local artists, professionals, diving deep into agricultural or environmental topics, doing a construction project, etc., all led by the students with their teachers guiding from the side. Students would accomplish this by conferencing with the teacher throughout the entirety of the project. So the project could last from 1 semester to 4 years. If it's going to be a 4-year project, it's going to have innovations and offshoots over time. It's going to develop and grow throughout those 4 years. And teachers will guide that again through conferencing, and students take it from there. They would be reaching out to the industry leaders, the people in the community themselves, and setting up times when they could talk to them, do research with them, go and work alongside them. Students would create a presentation of learning demonstrating their mastery through their work. This is typically open to the public, and I think that this is very exciting for Central Noble to have the public come in and see what our amazing students are capable of in this setting. They would also be responsible for doing and setting up apprenticeships. Apprenticeships could enhance the passion projects. They could go alongside with those, creating real life experiences around their passion projects. So if you're interested in something in nature, maybe you get in touch with the naturalists at Chain of Lakes and you get to do an apprenticeship there. It's not a shadow. You're doing their work. You're being fully immersed into that. Or apprenticeships could be something completely separate and something the learner is interested in, knowing more about or experiencing more about. They may discover that it's something that they really love, or they may discover they thought they would love it and they didn't, and both are useful and important. If I sound excited about this work, it's because I am. I've witnessed individualized student-led learning in action as a teacher at not only a Montessori school, but also an inner city charter school, a PBL public school, and parochial schools. What is brilliant about the microschool model that I bring to you tonight at Central Noble is that we would not be beholden to just one philosophy. We'd be open to any and all methodologies that best serve our students. In discussing this with parents at Central Noble, I was surprised by the overwhelmingly positive responses that I heard. Parents shared things like tuition, transportation, and not feeling welcome in a private school community were barriers to being able to provide a non-conventional learning environment for their children. When you start talking to families, I think you're going to be surprised too at how many are longing for something different for their children. And maybe some of you are too. So who would attend? The population would be made up of students who are seeking an option other than the traditional school model offered. The population would include similar demographics as the whole school population, meaning that we're not targeting a particular group. Rather, this is something that is available to all. The implementation plan I propose to you is that we pilot the microschool option for grades 9 through 12 initially, with the option to add grade levels and even special foci schools along the way, if it's deemed successful. We would gather data on direction and effectiveness of the model each semester for 4 years. Data will drive adjustments. Measures of success would be determined in a number of ways that could include, but not limited to, attendance records, engagement data, student goal setting and growth, both personal growth and academic growth, parent and student feedback, exhibitions of learning and portfolios, and progress towards graduation. And location will be important to this approach, and we have options. So I know cost is very important, and the current situation of our district gives us pause, and that's a good thing. So let's look at some options to discover the genius in adding a microschool option at CN. Partnering with Indiana Microschool Collaborative would result in a zero cost to Central Noble. If this is intriguing, we can discuss that further. Grant funding is also an option. As I prepared to speak with you today, I met with Jenna Ott, director of the DECO Foundation, where I inquired about how this model might fit into their vision and values and ways to make this a zero cost option. In our conversation, we discovered this fits beautifully into their mission to provide students with skills they can use to gain economic freedom post-high school. Onto revenue, this option could retain current families, attract out-of-district students to Central Noble, and attract in-district students who have left Central Noble back to Central Noble. And location, this is a school within a school model, so there's no overhead costs that a separate building would have. Finally, I have some concluding remarks for you tonight. Our students and families want choices, high quality choices in their education. If we don't offer a choice like the one I proposed to you, I think someone else will. Let's be the school that gives them what they did or didn't even know they were missing. As I stated earlier, we can do this at zero cost. This model could attract students to Central Noble. We would be embarking on a journey that has much room for growth while truly seeking what's good for our students. I've been in this field for 20 years, and I've worked in just about every possible education setting you can imagine. I've seen this model work with beautiful results, results that will blow you away, results that I never saw coming. But when learning is individualized, amazing outcomes are allowed to shine through. One last thing. As the referendum failed, I remember thinking that I had a decision to make. I could choose to leave and work for a district that wasn't struggling in the way we currently are, or I could stay and make it better. I chose to stay with the hope of working with all stakeholders to make it better, because even though the situation is dire here, and probably because it's dire, change must happen. I believe that all schools should be considering this, but at Central Noble, we're forced to. Status quo is human nature, and we don't have the luxury of continuing as we have. We have to make changes. This quote from JP Morgan struck me as a statement of where we are right now. The first step towards getting somewhere is to decide you're not going to stay where you are. As a board, I would like to commend you already for taking that first step. The fact that you're truly listening to ideas is bold and courageous and necessary, and it's clear that you see the necessity. So thank you. If you're not feeling fully convinced, let's talk some more. I left a lot out to make this fit into a reasonable time limit. So let's discuss questions you have, gaps, hesitations, and ideas that you may have regarding this proposal.
How does this align to the new diploma tracks?
Yeah, so there are ways that we can use a transcript program where we click off the mastery, that exhibition of learning I was talking about with their passion project. There's artifacts throughout that you can check off those skills for students.
That would be for any of the diploma tracks,
Yeah.
I don't even know what they're called. I should know, but-
There's employment, enlistment, and
Yeah.
enrollment, yeah.
So it checks all the boxes for all.
Yeah, I don't see how, it's getting all those skills. We wouldn't be leaving it out. They may even have more than.
It's called Mastery Connect transcript.
You said Master Connect transcript.
Yep. Mhm.
Mastery Connect transcript would be a viable option.
We would have to have dual credit options tied, but with them being able to take a class in the regular classroom, and we could still have those dual credit options for the enrollment.
How does this differ than giving students the options like we have currently with Impact, where they can go and do things that they're passionate about down here?
I don't think in Impact they're creating presentations of learning or doing research or actually working with industry leaders. This would be a more real life connection. They're doing welding, but are they welding for a business while they're learning welding? Like, there's a difference there. They could still do Impact if they wanted to do Impact. We could work with, the model is so flexible that, we could flip their morning and afternoon schedules for some students who maybe find Impact something they want to do. But I think that they probably could fit that into their passion project each year too, and that would be their afternoon work with a company that's welding. Or, think of 100 ideas.
Are we saying this is not necessarily college preparatory, but more vocational? Is that what you're saying there?
Not necessarily. Like Mr. Schuler said, it could be enrollment, enlistment, or employment. We're including all students in this, whatever their interests are. It's not just for vocational or just for enrollment. It's for everyone.
How does GPAs and stuff relate with kids and the other? I mean, how does that work, like class rank and things like that? Is that something attainable or not?
Yeah, I think that goes along with what Mr. Knipper was saying, that, you would do that mastery transcript, and there's probably points attached that he probably can speak more to that than I can. I haven't used the mastery transcript, but I've used something similar.
Yeah, I think it sounds exciting myself, but I just don't know what it, Sean and Doc Y and, what kind of reception do we have from current administrators, I guess? What do you think, Sean?
Heather and I've met, actually Heather and I sat down and talked at length. I mean, it's a great option for our students. My reservation would be whether it attracts students from other schools. I think for our students here, some of them that we try to provide alternative learning options for. We have students, and we talk specifically about students, Heather, about students that this would meet the model. I don't know if this is going to be something that brings students from other schools to our school, and I think that's important because, let's say, I mean, Heather would be obviously great at teaching in this model, but if we put Heather in the micro school, then I have to have an Algebra 1 teacher in the traditional classroom, and if we're not getting students from somewhere else, then I'm hiring another staff member. And years ago, we went to Athens, Georgia to look at their alternative learning center. And this was very much like their model. They had an English and math teacher in their alternative education center who taught, English and social studies and math and science, and then students were connected in different ways. So it's a great model. I would want to see who that attracted outside of our school district.
I don't think anybody else is doing this in our area, except for private schools that are charging thousands and thousands of dollars for kids to come there. And some of the conversations that I've had with parents, there was a family who is currently at Central Noble and toured a local private school and wanted their children to go there, but even on scholarship, they weren't able to afford it. But the model is very similar to what I'm presenting to you today. And they were very excited about the possibility of their student coming. So in terms of attracting other students, nobody else is really doing this. So if you want that sort of private school, small cohort sort of feel for your students, for many reasons, working in private schools myself, a lot of parents feel like it's a safer environment for their kids, or it's smaller so they get more individual attention. All of those things are still there. So I feel like we could pull kids from private schools even, not just public schools, because we're doing what they're doing for free.
How many staff members does it take to?
Do we know?
So I guess it depends, oh, wait, did Jared have something?
Hang on, Jared. I'm gonna turn you up a little bit. Go ahead, Jared.
Do we have access to like how many kids that are in our district that are homeschooled? That's the other target crowd that this could pull in.
Do we have how many kids are homeschooled?
We have access to how many kids go, and I think we have how many are homeschooled. We don't know who, but I think we have a decent gauge on the numbers.
20 or 200?
Is that?
Is it 20 or is it 200?
Offhand, I don't know. I'd have to get with Matt Nepper and have him run that. There's through the data exchange that he can run and tell us.
That's a good point. And I think I didn't mention that too, that the not only out of district students coming, but also I would consider homeschool kids out of district. They're choosing not to come to Central Noble. So yeah, I think this would be a big, if I put myself into a homeschooling parent's shoes, this would be really enticing.
If we put you in that position, or say someone like you, how many students could one person handle?
So I think that the ratio is a 1-to-15 ratio. And I guess depending on how much interest we have right away, depends on how many teachers you would need. But again, in talking with Jenna Ott, it sounds like we could apply for grants. And she even talked about how if the need increases, that maybe the grants increase too. So just because of the nature of what this is and how well it aligns with their own vision and values.
How would we, stupid question probably, but how do we gauge success here, like after 2 years if we start a program like that?
So I listed a few ways. And these are just like, I'm spitballing. Looking at attendance records, engagement data, looking at student goal setting and growth. So we would look at students' growth both personally but also academically. And then also parent and student feedback. We'd put out surveys and hear their feedback. Also exhibitions of learning in their portfolios. That's their showing us the mastery. That's the passion projects and capstone projects. And then also their progress towards graduation. Are they still progressing? All fresh, or anybody who's in biology takes that biology end of course assessment on iLearn. That's another way to gauge, are these kids in line with the traditional model students as well?
As far as staff though, so if we need 2 teachers to teach in a micro school, we take those from our current staff, then we would have to hire 2 new teachers to fill those.
Which is part of the granting process. That would be what we would ask the grant
So
for.
there's no overlap there where they could do both.
I don't see how that's possible.
Okay.
I've tried to think of how could I tell you we should start this in January and still be the algebra teacher. But I'm not sure that I could like clone myself and do that. So I think that, yeah, we would have to have them be separate.
Cost could also be offset by attracting new students, correct?
Yes, the cost could be offset by the students that are attracted.
If they brought in 8 new students, possibly it could offset the cost of that teacher.
Yeah, so Jared has done the math and said 8 new students would offset the cost of those teachers.
That would be for salary alone, but then you'd have benefits, so it'd probably be more like 10 or 11
It'd be like 10.
students per teacher.
Is there consumables that would go along with your courses? I'm sure you gotta buy stuff, right? And it's not just labor, but you've got material costs and some of these things, I assume.
Not that I have thought of yet. The learning platforms, you could use free learning platforms. I've connected with the school that I sent you the videos of, the forest school, and they've shared their learning platforms with me, and so it's something we can look into. But they have learning platforms on there that are completely free.
What size of a school was the forest school? Like how many students?
In the high school part, I don't know, I'm sorry, I should look that up for you.
If we started this, let's say next school year, would you cap enrollment at 20? So you could do it with 1 staff, since there's so many unknowns, right? You don't want to hire 6 teachers that have 5 kids, you know?
Well, I don't think we would need that. I would be happy with 1 teacher and 2 teachers. So I don't know, I guess that's something that we need to think about. 15 to 30 would be my suggestion, just to keep it small and have 2 teachers and 30 students.
I just want to make sure I'm following correctly. This, at that point, would be more like a pathway, because I know we have pathways. So is this micro school option a pathway for parents and students, or?
You could look at it that way,
Or
that pathway would have to connect to the employment, enrollment, or enlistment ultimately. So, yeah, I mean, if you're looking at kids who go to impact, that's a vocational pathway, kids who go to work-based learning, kids who go to micro school. I think one of Heather's points, though, that's important is kids will come in and out of this environment. So, an AP calculus student, they're probably still going to take AP calculus in the traditional classroom. AP biology, they're probably still going to take that in the traditional classroom. So it wouldn't be, they're not going to take every single one of their classes in that setting. If there's something they need to go out, Spanish 3, Spanish 4,
Band.
dual credit, we're going to go out and take those.
I can't teach them band.
So, it's managing an alternative, learning pathway, but those students are still connected because they're going to take classes within our building as well.
That helps
We're not
me.
going to replicate an ag
I was just
class.
trying to envision how we were going to transition 1,108 students. You know what I mean? Into how did that transition? But the way you said 15 to 30 students led me to believe it was more of like a pathway.
I think you think of it as its own school
Okay.
that connects to the larger school.
An option.
An option. Mhm.
Does anybody else have any further questions for?
I do. How do the students get selected for that? Like, what's the selection process like? Because you may have tons of applicants. How do you select who is chosen to do that?
If it's going to be a pilot, we have to keep the demographics the same. So that has to be one area of the selection process. And I think if there is a ton of students, there would have to be an application and interview, because while this might sound good to you, like you're going to be great at it, not not everybody is successful in this environment. I've had lots of experience when I've interviewed incoming students at a private school, and I've shared with their parents the hesitations I have, and they still choose to enroll them, and then a month later, the student is just painfully withdrawing, you know? So we wouldn't want them to fail in that way. We'd want them to be successful in the environment. So if there's a lot of people, and even if there's not, I think there still has to be an interview, like a face-to-face, let's talk and get to know each other a little bit. And an application process. And if we're gonna pilot it, we do have to keep those demographics similar, or it's unfair one way or the other.
Sean, how many kids do you think in our current freshman through junior classes might be interested in this?
Now, when we met, we just talked about specific kids that came to mind.
Right.
Probably in-house, maybe 12 to 15 right now that we name tossed around like, oh, this kid might really thrive in this kid might really thrive. So, but I mean, there could be more kids that were presented with the option were interested in it. Those are just kids that, you know, we're like, hey, they're really struggling with this. This might be a really good concept.
But you think enough that we would fill one class, like one teacher, if the ratio's 1 to 15, we could probably fill one.
I was just talking about freshmen and sophomores really with Sean and Ashley. And then after speaking with some more parents, that opened my mind to even more students who might be interested, so.
How early in their career can they start it?
What?
How young? Junior high?
Oh, no, this could go all the way to the elementary levels. Yeah, that's what I mean. We have a floor, but we don't have a ceiling. If this is something that really is, we start it and we see, oh my goodness, parents really do want an option for kids. Along the way, we can add them at different levels. And there may be a little training involved. I'd be happy to help with that. Just, you need the right person in that environment because it is relinquishing your power, right? You're not the sage on the stage, you're the guide on the side. So it does take a specific personality of a teacher to be able to handle that. And we have them in our district already, so, but attracting them to maybe fill that too. I don't know, there's so many possibilities that I'm saying the junior, senior high, I'm presenting that to you because I have a secondary 1 and 2 Montessori credential, and that's what I'm familiar with. And I know that will work. I feel very confident about that. And I know that there are kids here that need that and do want that. So that's why I'm presenting it at that level to you, but I also know and have seen it work in lower levels too.
We would start with that as senior high though.
Yeah.
Probably the lower grade, 9, 10, because not that we would eliminate a senior, but it'd be hard to gather data from the senior who we've already gotten 3 years through to bring in.
Yeah.
And say, well, they graduated, well, that was a goal all along, so.
And this model works with other models. I know you're going to hear about the 4-day school week. This isn't like, oh, if you do micro school, you can't do 4-day school week. They go together. They're not mutually exclusive. So, and it works with other models. If there are other ideas too, it's just, it's very flexible. And that's why I think that there's a genius in this that maybe other schools haven't considered or tapped into yet, that we would be kind of on that leading edge.
I think we would also need to gauge, employers in the area, community that we would need assistance from, not financially, but like placement, for the projects and things to make sure that if we did go this route, that we have employers and places that are willing.
They're willing. I'm telling you, they're willing. I've already talked to some of them and they would love to have our students in their businesses, learning with them, teaching them too. Like, it's not just like the kids would be doing all the learning. The business owners, the local artists, the professionals, they're gonna learn too. And they're gonna benefit as well by having someone there to teach that trade and to, maybe the students are networking, but so are the employers networking with future students, with future employees.
And I don't know who your connections are in the company, and I think that's great, but I work in human resources and I'm here to tell you that I like the idea, but me selling it to the people that actually have to slow down in their day to impact another person. Sometimes that's hard to get them on board because I would take all the kids, right? But actually putting that in place when it comes into the work is
So if
what.
if you go to that forest school, there's lots more videos than I showed you, but one of them is on apprenticeships. And one of the students talks about working in like a graphic design company, and they just gave him a job and sort of said, figure it out. We need to do color block. I don't know what color block means, but he did all the color blocking. And from start to finish, he did that. And that was his job. And he doesn't say, oh, they took a lot of time to help me figure this out. They said, this is your job. Figure this out. So, I mean, you know, there's various levels of what employers are comfortable with in having the students join them. So it could be as simple as, you know, figure it out to, I want to show you every piece of this and I'm going to give this whole project to you. Or I don't know, I guess it depends on the individuals too.
And I know Laura Scott will be presenting on the new tracks. I mentioned them. And just, you know, a lot of people probably aren't aware, but there's no longer going to be a 440 diploma, an academic honors diploma. The entire state has gone to 3 tracks: enrollment, enlistment, and employment. And with every one of those tracks, all students are going to be required to put in real world work hours, even for the enrollment plus seal, which would closely equate to the academic honors diploma now. Every student has to have 75 hours in a workplace. Take it further to the employment plus seal, those students have to have 650 hours. And so we're going to be tasked with tracking all that for every student. So the micro school students doing it may be more familiar by the time we get 500 other students through it and track that, but that's coming, I mean, you know, that's coming across and we've already talked about that. You know, I'm looking at Ryan thinking, gee, Ryan, I wonder how many QSI is going to be able to take, because we're going to have a lot of students looking for those hours and they have to be documented hours in a workplace.
Any other questions?
I have one.
Absolutely.
Is Eagle Tech in Columbia City considered a micro school?
They're considered a high-tech high, but it's very similar. Also, Garrett did this. They had like the academy, which dissolved because it became kind of a negative interaction between the traditional model and the academy model, which is something that we need to discuss how to avoid that. But I think the school within the school model helps. Eagle Tech at Columbia City, I've talked to them too. They used to have a separate campus, but when they built their new school, they have the same campus. And they were doing something very similar. They were busing their students so they could take classes at the high school if they chose that. Now the kids just go out, they take their classes, they come back to Eagle Tech and they take their business math together, or I think it's business science that they paired together. And, you know, they take their classes in the micro school. They also have like exhibitions of learning, like I'm talking about here. So it is something similar. But that's a PBL model. And so that's what I'm saying, open methodologies. We wouldn't be just a PBL model. We could, if that works for a particular project or a student, sure, let's do that. But if Montessori or Waldorf works for another one, then let's do that. Or a combination of all of them, then it leaves it open and we don't have to say we're a high-tech high. We're a micro school and we're doing what's best for kids.
All right, thank you, Heather. We'll move on with Gabe. About 4-day school weeks.
Turn on. So my name is Gabe Stuck, just to introduce myself.
okay.
Yeah.
Are we gonna have to move that one?
We're passing Jared down. We gotta mute him, sorry.
No.
Yeah.
Is that better? I wasn't gonna say this, but going after Heather, she's such a hard act to follow. Such an incredible asset to our school here. But my name is Gabe Stuck. I'm a junior high social studies teacher. And the reason I'm here really is because after the referendum failed, Mr. Morgan, he sent out an email to all staff members saying that the school is looking for innovative solutions to help save the school money. And at the time, I really didn't know how I could help or what I could do, but I knew I wanted to help in some way. And my background before becoming a teacher is I have a background in law and also in business. Just thought there has to maybe be some solution. So I started researching various solutions. And one that I came across that I think presents a lot of good opportunities is a 4-day school week. So that is the proposal that I want to present today. I just want to thank the board member and Mr. Morgan for providing this opportunity. So today with the 4-day school week, what we're going to explore is basically analyzing the financial benefits. We're also going to look at student outcomes. We're going to assess implementation and some challenges that we might face. So things we'll examine today or tonight is a 4-day school week proposal that could save anywhere from $100,000 to $175,000 annually while improving teacher retention by 10 to 15% and possibly increase student enrollment by also 5 to 10%. So some financial challenges I'm sure everyone's familiar with that Central Noble has been facing in recent times. So Central Noble operates on a $15.5 million annual budget. And with the significant financial pressures with the referendum failing in 2025, we've been looking at making some possible changes. So the district serves 1,113 students across rural Noble County, Indiana. We've been faced with declining enrollment, and this also compounds with budget challenges. The 4-day school week proposal emerges as a strategic response to maintain educational quality while reducing cost. So here are some projected financial benefits. So the annual projected savings would be $100,000 to $175,000 a year, with a 0.5 to 2.5% of total budget. On average, the 4-day school week model, it particularly benefits rural schools. And rural schools typically see an average of at least 2% savings. Utility savings, $50,000 to $100,000 from reduced building operations. And then of course, transportation savings, $50,000 to $75,000 from eliminating Monday routes. The same with the utility savings, being able to have the electric off in the buildings, maybe not have to have the heat or air conditioning ran or on the lower temperature would benefit us. One thing I will
step in there also, with the utility savings, it could be a little bit greater just because of our solar that we now have on the high school. And if we end up with the second phase on the elementary, that is slated, if we move forward with it, to take over 90% of that building's utilities cost overall. So we can have one day where everything's reduced to not as much, and there will probably be more savings.
One more thing I will add is if you do the numbers with our budget and a 2% savings, it's actually greater savings than our projected up there, but I just want to be really conservative with those projections. But I personally foresee that we could even exceed those numbers up there, the 100,000, 175. So I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, how does this impact student outcomes and academic outcomes? So one thing that was really interesting as I began to look at some of the research behind the 4-day school week model is it shows that there is nationwide, there's no negative impacts on student academics. In fact, actually rural districts typically see a positive academic effect. Now, the key to having that positive academic effect is to make sure that the instructional hours or minutes are preserved, which this proposal today does that. But a 2020 Morin and Anderson study that was followed up in 2022, they confirmed that you maintain all academic achievement goals on a 4-day model if hours are preserved. So with the proposal today, it would be a 145-day model at 7.75 hours. So I don't know exactly what the hours would look like, but just to give an example, if we went from 8 a.m. to 3:45 every day with the students, that would actually exceed the minimum requirement. We'd have 67,425 hours. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Morgan, does it 64,800, I believe is the minimum. So we'd be over a little under 3,000 minutes that we'd be exceeding the state requirement.
So I think when we did it, the calculation was about 7 days worth, we'd be actually over, if you calculated out the same time as a 180-day calendar. So, which currently our schedule is 8:25 to 3:17. So really, there's not a significant adjustment in time, 25 minutes in the morning and about a half hour in the afternoon.
Yeah, and with this model, one thing that it would allow for the teachers and students to do is it would provide the opportunity for deeper learning. I'm not sure how the class structure would look, but having longer days would provide the teachers opportunity to reinforce some of those learning that took place previously in class. So studies show that it actually improves focus for students and creates higher engagements in that kind of setting. So one thing that really shocked me looking at some of the kind of wellness benefits that could be received from this proposal was that there's a 39 decrease report of being bullied by their students when you have a 4-day school schedule. It also improves attendance rates, particularly in rural contexts. One reason my proposal is to have the school day run from Tuesday to Friday. I know if we would want to have an appointment scheduled for, let's say, a Friday, the day you're off. I know I run into my dentist oftentimes is not available on a Friday. So just having the Mondays off is a good opportunity. If a student needs to schedule an appointment or if a staff member needs to schedule an appointment, it allows them to not have to miss a day where students would be in session. So this inherently will reduce the absences for the students and staff members. Also having an additional day, of course, you come back better refreshed, and having an additional day, you're able to spend more time with your family. And whether you're a farmer or you like to hunt, it provides opportunity to do that with your family members that extra day. So looking at teacher retention and morale improvements. So teacher retention improvements, you saw 10 to 15% across peer districts. You had reduced absenteeism, as we just mentioned, 10 to 15% less absenteeism. And again, this allows for the appointments in that day. You have enhanced work-life balance that supports rural lifestyle needs. And I strongly believe this would also be a very strong recruitment tool, not only for potential teacher applicants, but also for students. With adding that extra flexibility in scheduling, and with the way Central Noble is uniquely situated, with West Noble and East Noble, Lakeland, and Cherubusco, offering something that is a little non-traditional in schedule might appeal to a lot of those families and those students and also teachers in the area. So the legal compliance framework, Indiana allows for schools to submit a waiver, and Indiana Code 20-30-2-3 requires 180 student instructional days typically. Under a 4-day plan, we'd have 145 days. And in order to do that, to meet this requirement, we would extend the daily hours. So the state minimum currently for the hours is 67,425. I'm sorry, that'd be our hours, 67,425, which would exceed the minimum. And one school that has already done this in Indiana is Bend Elementary. And I believe their hours is the same as what our proposal is also. So the House Enrolled Act 1003 provides flexibility waiver pathway for innovation.
So that would be, if this ended up progressing further,
And it was voted on to, at a later date, to go, like, yeah, we're gonna try this. We would have to do a flexibility waiver, send it to the state, so we would have to wait on their approval. So they could be, even after we send the waiver, they could say no. And back to starting all over, so it's not a for sure thing at any point.
Just going off what Mr. Morgan just mentioned, I could be mistaken, but I believe I read it. You have a 28-day period if they want extra documentation or something additionally provided to resubmit that to the state. And I know a big concern that a lot of parents might have is the childcare challenges. So Noble County has only 100, 200 existing childcare slots. Also distance barriers. Many providers are 10 to 15 miles from Central Noble. Those geographic challenges compound rural childcare shortage. Central Noble's daycare expansion and strategic partnerships would definitely be essential in order to make this implementation successful. So just some benchmarking of success stories here in Indiana. In Lafayette, Indiana, Benton Elementary, they have a pilot of 430 students. And what they saw when they implemented the 4-day school week was a 15% more student intra-district transfers, and then 5% increase in enrollment. Ben's inaugural Indiana pilot saw iLearn ELA scores go up 3%, with 43% of them being proficient, and math 2.4% with 41 being proficient, with 95% of student family retention. And an NWEA 2025 survey showed that when you have daycare and having options in place for the parents, typically you get about 84% of parents that support it. I think, not too surprisingly, 95% of the kids support it, which being a teacher, when they saw the board agenda go out, there was a lot of questions to me today. So they would be excited for that opportunity. It estimated, again, 100 to 175,000 potential savings for our district. And one thing that's really interesting as we look at the research is across the board, there is a consistent pattern. So when you go from a 5-day school week and you switch to hours and you go to 4, what you will see is typically financial savings plus improved staffing and more stable academics are, in a lot of cases, in rural settings, improved academics. So how does it compare to out-of-state schools that have already gone to this model? One thing that's really interesting is, even though there's only one school in Indiana currently, it's not uncommon in other states, especially some out west. I know Texas has quite a few schools that do this also. Oddly enough, when there was students asking me about this today, one student said he came from a Texas school and they had a 4-day model. I asked him, how he liked it and how his grades were. He said that his grades were better on the 4-day model and he liked it better. But average fiscal savings of 0.4, 2.5%, and you can even have up to 5% maximum. And again, this all comes from reducing utilities and transportation. Stable improved student outcomes when hours are preserved, and recruitment boosts 10 to 20% in similar schools. And one thing about Benton, just looking at from the last slide, their test scores and things, I think they mirror, our student body pretty well also. So I believe this model provides a lot of opportunities for our school here. And you look at financial, of course, the 100,000, 175,000 saved. Academic, stable to improved test scores, increase in staff retention. It's innovative. One thing that the state of Indiana looks for when you have to apply for the waivers, they want an innovative approach. So having perhaps extended block time or project-based learning will help with rural needs. And it also boosts engagement 15% for bookings 2022. Also will help fit this innovative requirement. With the community, this fits, Albany, Indiana, and Central Noble schools. It fits with the rural life. Those that like to hunt, do 4-H, or farming, help with their family, have an extra day will provide them the opportunity. And again, typically when there is childcare support in place or some kind of opportunity for the kids to be involved in a program on Mondays, typically 60 to 70% of parents are in support of this. And, one way to look at this also, because our hours are maintained, it's not going to be less school necessarily for the kids. It's just on Mondays, it could provide opportunity for additional learning. Maybe, the student struggling with math or English or whatever subject it might be, that Monday, they might be able to go to some community support and get extra tutoring services to get extra support with their academics that a 5-day week wouldn't traditionally provide. So this does support Central Noble's mission through nurturing environment, high expectations, and having our community ties, and for the future of the strategic plan of Central Noble Schools. So childcare solutions, I know there's a lot of options, opportunities for childcare. One possible proposal could be to have 50 to 75 on-site slots of academic enrichment for the students. Research shows that this can improve academic performance, with studies indicating gains of 1 to 2 grade levels in subjects like math and reading when support is consistent. It also boosts confidence and motivation as students receive tailored feedback in progress, which can reduce dropout rates, especially in rural districts like Central Noble, where resources might be limited. Additionally, it enhances problem-solving skills and prepares students for standardized tests, aligning with the goals like maintaining island benchmarks. There's also partnerships that Central Noble currently has, and more that could be explored. So, of course, the YMCA partnership, church collaborations, and our existing daycare that we have, and also coordinating with others like Trinity Daycare Ministry and other current providers. So just to kind of address some of the concerns that might be raised with the changes, change is never easy, but academic concerns are mitigated by preserving instructional hours and rural success data. Juvenile crime risks are minimal in rural contexts and would be addressed through structured Monday programming. Parent support, again, typically 60 to 70% approval when child care solutions are in place. Community engagement is essential for addressing the remaining 30-40% of concerns. And I think one important aspect is just being very proactive with communication, just like tonight, and having a good strategy in place that will build trust and acceptance within the community. So one thing to note about implementing this process and applying for the state waiver is Crawford County, they applied for this waiver in 2025. And one thing that they did not do is they did not go to a uniform schedule. So they wanted, I don't know if it was the elementary to have a traditional school week and the high school to have a 4-day week, or if it was opposite, but it wasn't uniform. And this actually violated Indiana's uniformity requirement for school calendars. So if this decision would be something that would want to be explored and implemented, it would have to be across all grade levels to satisfy Indiana code. The state approval denied for inconsistent implementation. CNCSC must adapt a unified Tuesday-Friday schedule across all grade levels. Legal compliance requires district-wide consistency, not grade level variations. So what I'm proposing tonight would be a 3-year pilot program framework. So starting off tonight with the board discussions, and then in the winter of 2025-2026, submit an HEA 1003 flexibility waiver application. Spring 2026, seek State Board of Education approval. Summer 2026, finalize calendar and logistics for August 2026 start. And then having a 3-year pilot. This would give us the opportunity to look at the data and evaluate, whether this is a decision that we would want to continue with, or we want to go back to the traditional 5-day school week. Just a little bit more about the state waiver requirements. One thing that the state will be looking as far as benchmarking, if we would decide to do this option, you want to maintain or improve student academic performance, such as I-Learn benchmarks, have established child care partnerships, including safeguards for all students for that Monday, address specific community needs, cost savings, teacher retention, provide equivalent instructional time through extended daily hours or minutes, and demonstrate innovation with data-driven rationale and a monitoring plan. So my overall strategic recommendation for tonight would be to survey the stakeholders, the teachers, the parents, and students, and anyone that might be impacted by this change. You've got to look at the workload, transportation, extracurricular impacts, and see what the input of everybody is. Establish a comprehensive child care partnerships before implementation. I think a lot of the hesitation that could arise from this is just the uncertainty of where their child will go on a Monday. I guess my personal pushback would be is that, that I understand that concern, and that is, a legitimate concern. But there was a bad weather day and there's a cancellation, the parents would have something in place. And, the summer breaks with the 10 weeks that were off, the parents find a solution, or on holidays. So I think a big piece of this is just making sure that we give parents and families adequate time to prepare and have a plan in place that they're comfortable with. And again, I propose a Tuesday through Friday schedule just because I think it would allow staff members and students to not to miss as many days of school with doctor appointments especially. Apply for HEA 1003 flexibility waiver application. And then I know one thing that's been addressed tonight is the new state requirements for the teachers to have a minimum salary of $45,000. Hopefully some of these savings could be reinvested to help meet that requirement for teacher compensation. Implement rigorous 3-year evaluation with annual state reporting, maintain continuous community engagement throughout pilot period. So I'll just conclude with saying, I know at times changes can be challenging, and especially in small rural schools, change isn't always easy, but with the current financial restraints that we're facing, and with all the positive outcomes that can result from this, I think it would be something that would be interesting to explore. Thank you. Do we have any questions?
So I think I'll just add a few things to that. One, just to address, I know we've heard it going around that Central Noble is closing. We're not closing. Like, we're far from that. That is started somewhere. I don't know where. Do we have to look at some different options? Yes, but you're going to see other schools that are going to be in the same boat in coming years. This isn't just a small school problem. Right now, Northwest Allen is going through, they're a huge school, and they're going through a referendum as well for some of the same reasons. So a lot of what Senate Bill 1 has done to not only schools, but community government, to cities, to counties, the implications of that are going to start taking effect. And it's not just a small school issue. It's going to be everywhere. So for one, we're trying to get ahead of some of that. But we're going to talk about a little bit later after this about the primary building and what options there are for that too. I know there's 2 ways for schools to bring in money: referendums or up here enrollment. We've tried the referendum route. Now we're looking at options to up our enrollment because you can transfer some money from your education fund if your enrollment goes up and you have that to your operations to help cover some of the losses that are going to happen. We know they're going to happen because of Senate Bill 1. The one thing we can't do is to do nothing. If we do nothing, we'll be in a lot bigger trouble. So these are why some of these ideas were being presented, and we'll do some further discussion. But I guess over to the board, if they have questions about what Mr. Stuck just presented.
If we apply for this waiver, do we have to state that it's a 3-year pilot? If we try it for the first year and it's a total bust, is there a
It would not have to be before like 3 years. So if it would be, hey, this isn't working, you could go back to 5.
One thing I'll add that it wasn't included in the slides, but with the work-based learning that the high school students do for graduation, that Monday could also be used for students to get into the community and fulfill those requirements. So that was also something that I didn't include in the slides, but I think that's also a good opportunity there for our students here.
Especially if they need 650 hours and working, that Monday will, or whatever day it is, would help dramatically in that.
And you said no sporting events on that day as well?
Oh, I would
So
really
we
just
just looked at the sporting, like actual events off, but extracurriculars, lots of the schools, they have extracurriculars still from like 3 to 6 o'clock. The air comes on at 3:30, it goes off at 5:30, so there's a 2-hour window because there's still things that kind of have to happen. So there would be a short time where, yes, there would be some of that, but it would be all extracurriculars, whether that's theater, FFA, band, whatever that would be.
I really like the presentation. My one question I have is, are students and staff only going the 4 days? And if staff is not working 5 days, how is their compensation affected?
So by doing that, if you, in the presentation where you said they're actually going the same amount, if not more hours, so the hourly rate is what would be affected. So they're essentially working the same amount, it's just in a shorter days. Does that make sense? So our teachers only working 7 hours, 5 days a week, and not working longer, 4 days a week. Same with our IAs or.
But you can't make up for Monday in 4 days, working an extra 45 minutes
Correct,
to
there,
an hour.
we'd have to look at, there would be some adjustments we'd have to look at.
Because all he came up with was utilities and transportation as far as dollar savings.
Right, because we haven't looked completely into, because we're waiting for some approvals to move forward with some of the stuff.
What we're putting in for the waiver part of it is just taking us off of days. We still have to, so you either have an option, you go on days or you do hours. So we're just asking the state, would you not allow us to do days and switch us to an hour plan? Yeah, instead. That's all we're asking the state for, with the 4 days.
Well, I'm just thinking that there would be savings in wages as well for less hours worked.
Well, but they wouldn't be working less, they would be working actually more than what we're currently working. By about 3,000 an hour. Well, have to see what, I think was that, Gabe, was that what it was, 3,000?
So that was the minimum requirement hours was 64,800. The proposal is 67,425 hours. I'm not sure how it would compare to what we're currently doing with the days.
We'd have to, like at the next meeting, come back with those numbers.
If there's nothing else, we'll move on.
We have a question back here. Yep.
So you said for IAs, support staff, they would work longer hours, like they would have a Monday off, correct? Would that affect our benefits that we get based on the number of?
Yep.
So how does that work with school closings for due to weather? Does that, because
So-
our based,
So typically they will then move to like in March, all the Mondays in March would be makeup days. So those first like 4 or 5 days would go to those Mondays in March.
for the same hour, for the 8 o'clock to 3:45?
Yes, yeah.
3:45 to make up those hours.
Yes.
Did you have a question?
Me? No, I was just saying her, but I'm concerned as a parent of young children, like where I'm gonna find childcare. And then maybe it's not every week. Maybe it's, if we're going on a Monday, then I don't know. My daycare, I have to be there and I pay for when I'm there. So to find somebody, and I know a lot of people are in the same boat, trying to find where my kid's gonna go. I mean, mine's 8, but I'm still not gonna let her stay at home all day. So, but yes, but I'm saying like, I'm in this boat because I'm a teacher, but other people that aren't teachers are gonna be scrambling, trying to find, because I know that our Trinity and our ELC isn't gonna just take in all these kids. I don't know what these other community partnerships are.
So I would say
I don't know.
on Vinton Elementary's website, they said through surveys, they've identified like 300 kids who were parents and said they would need daycare. And I think, if I remember correctly, they said like 22 actually took advantage of it. So they offered it and only 22 took it. Yes, they offered it and only 22 took it.
Hey, Robbie, what did you say about the 22?
At Vinton Elementary, the elementary that is in Indiana that's doing it, they had through surveys, like 300 kids identified. I'd have to go look at the exact number. But I want to say it was like 22 students took advantage of that. Our families took advantage for 22 students.
Just to clarify, that 67,000, that's in minutes, not hours.
Yes, yes, sorry.
Good question.
Just bring in your sleeping bag.
You're gonna make Jeff retire early.
I have one. I don't know if this is a concern or not, but with the extension of the school day, how early are sporting events for students? Would they be missing part of the school day? Or anything like
No,
that?
they would have to adjust times. And currently, our buses, like for middle school events, really can't leave much before 4:30 anyways. So,
Most junior high events are 5:30 or 6 o'clock start time, and most varsity events are 7 o'clock start time, 6:30 or 7.
I don't know if it's an option too, you know, if we can plan for it, you know, I don't know if you have friends that, you know, could help out on those days as well. I just know the only way I survived as a parent going to college was friends. Hey, I got to do this. Can you keep the kids? And then, you know, she'd give her kids to me when we did that. So I don't know if everybody has an option or relationship, but I hope that if that is something that is considered, you know, community members can come together for each other too and not rule that out as an option.
Could you open, so the extension of the CN daycare, could you open that additionally for one day staffed by maybe students that are getting, you know, they're trying to get their hours to complete their track, staffed by students?
there are, I think there are definitely options. We haven't dug that far into it, but definitely there are options for that.
Yes.
Okay, so out of some of the conversation that we've had up to this point, there's been comments about Central Noble, staff itself was losing childcare for their own, children, and I know we've talked about the issue of childcare being a concern, and, the statistics from the county is 60 to 70% of parents have both working parents or they're single working from home. So I want that on everyone's radar as we make a decision. And I know myself, I work in a facility that's 20 miles outside of here, and I know of the 2 families that work in that facility that would be impacted, that would make then my job harder to get people to work in the event. So I want to make sure that the businesses of the Noble County area are also managing or looking at their impacts and what this will do for their employees as well. But on the same note of the childcare, I appreciate everyone coming to the solutions. That's a big thing. It's a business, and we have to make sure that we're making good decisions that support the kids as well as our community. But as we do that, I'm wondering if we can consider with these types of kids and hearing from some of the things that are safe sitter courses and enrolling the kids into something along those lines that maybe can be leveraged on those Mondays that could help support. Because historically I have taken advantage of the YMCA, which has been very unreliable with staffing, and I can see that as becoming a potential issue as well moving forward. Getting people to come to staff something like that is not going to change. We have to get more creative with the solution. So looking at the high school, implementing a safe sitter course for our kids to maybe take advantage of that on Mondays as well.
All right, thanks, Gabe.
We got one more back.
Is it possible to do like a hybrid version of it where maybe it's not 4 days every week, or it's some kind of back and forth, or that results parents looking for childcare, whether it's, I don't know, 2 Mondays a month are off or something, and do the long days that week.
Well, I'll let Mr. Morgan, but with the waiver, I believe it has to be uniform. Correct.
I think it has to be uniform with the waiver. I don't know that for a fact, but I think their big thing is they look at uniformity as it goes through. So. Okay, so up next would be, if we're looking at options, and we decide we're gonna stay the way we are 5 days, not gonna change anything, then what to do with the primary building? We know we have to do something, to be able to save. I think Kim has some, rough estimates on what it would be if we moved the last 2 grade levels over. But we run into this, we have to do something with the primary building, we have some options where we could move all of our daycare and our YMCA out there. The daycare would be self-sustaining and actually bring in a little bit of money if we open to the public. The whole entire building would not be used, so it would lend itself to if we wanted to have some CTE programming or that brings in some money, or co-op programs that can save us some money. There's just some different ideas, but I think Kim has some things. One of the, like we talked about earlier, is that we can't stay the way it is and not do anything because we have these looming cost expenses coming up. So we're going to have to do something. What that is, I'm not sure. We are in this awkward stage of we're almost too small to keep it open, but we get a couple housing divisions, which I think there is one coming down the pipe maybe, with like 24 houses or so. If something else will come in, but that's 3 to 5 years, but we have to focus on the now, the next 3 years. So we have to make some decisions on where we're going to start moving towards. So Tim, if you want to give some of that.
I don't have a ton of data here because we do have a lot up in the air. So I'm hoping if you guys have some things tonight that you say, yep, we want to explore this more, then we dig into that a little bit more. But with the savings that we kind of talked, or with the utility spending that we talked about with the primary, again, that was $101,732.48. If we would do something like a 4-day week, we could probably anticipate, I think they said up to about a 25% just kind of utilities savings over there. If we would want to potentially move the daycare and YMCA programs out there and then not use part of the building, we could see potentially a 50% utility savings from what we're seeing now. So just those alone, I guess a 50% savings alone would be about $50,866.24. With moving everyone to the elementary, again, kind of what we stated earlier, we do have enough space at this time with enrollment as is. But like Robbie just said, we're kind of in this weird limbo of if we get too many more kiddos, we're right on that cusp of still needing the space of the primary. So it's hard, like in my position, it's hard for me to say, you know, we vacate the building and then 2 years down the road, we get this housing and we have all these kiddos that we need to educate. And doing a referendum for a brand new building construction at this point would be very costly.
I mean, I think you're, even to add on to Albion, I mean, you're probably looking at $40 to $50 million just to add on. So the one thing, if we would move over, we're going to have to find some other uses that doesn't cost the corporation as much, that could provide some cost savings. Because, you know, like a $40, $50 million referendum that would be astronomical. It's not feasible, but at the same time, we can't just close it down, because if we do, we'd have to put it up for sale. And any other educational, entity that would want to come in, so whether it was a charter school, private school, whatever that would be, could purchase it for $1. So they would have time to do that. Now, if no one tried to purchase it, then after I think 60 or 90 days, you could then offer it for sale. But again, I don't know that we would sell it, because if we do get some housing to come in and we need it, we need to have that option.
And we do, I mean, we would have some shuttle pay or shuttle transportation savings that we would have right off the bat. There could be some positions that could be combined moving over to the building, but we would still have the same amount of kids that we have now. So the anticipated savings from combining wouldn't necessarily be a lot from the payroll aspect of things, just because we are still educating the same amount of students.
So I recently this summer talked with a gentleman in our community who kind of goes in and finds cost savings within corporations. And the one thing that he said to me that stuck out was, you can't cut your way to a savings. We've kind of cut as much as we can
So now we've got to look at different ways to raise funds. Like I said, with schools, it's referendums or upping your enrollment, or shuttling around to moving some things to not use as much of our operations. So we've got a giant task on our hands.
You said utility costs for that annually are about 100 to 115,000.
Yeah.
And we could save potentially 50% of that.
If we
If
bring,
you
yes.
go to,
And that's still
using it for
utilizing the
daycare.
building. Mhm.
and save 25% if we go to the 4-day week.
Yep.
So that would go down to 75 or 80,000.
So I think if we went to a 4-day week, knowing that on average you get a 5 to 10% increase in your enrollment, I think typically that's higher at the senior high level than the elementary, but it would provide us 5 to 10%. You're looking at 55 to 110 kids possibly at about $7,000 a piece. You're looking at close to 700,000 or more. Well, yeah, that's at the top end, or 300, almost 400,000 at the low end. So that could be generated if we decided to go with a 4-day model, which could then possibly keep the primary open for at least a year till we saw what the enrollment did. If enrollment stayed stagnant, we'd have to then look at it a year from now, like we're going to have to move everyone over. If we did get 55 to 100 students, depending where those go, like that's the problem. That it's not, we can't say, okay, they're all going to be at the junior high. It's going to be spread out. So we'd have to look at grade levels and probably cap some of those that are lower grades, because we couldn't take on 150 kids in a grade level. It'd be great, but we just don't, even with both buildings, we wouldn't have the room for that.
What I'm hearing, it's not feasible to go to a 4-day week and close down with because you don't have a place to put the childcare. We need the childcare, especially if we go to a 4-day week. And we need that building, the space here for the students. If we bring them over here, if we go to a 4-day week, you still have to have the daycare.
Well, we would still probably want to keep the primary as is, just because of enrollment, like looking at if we get an influx of enrollment.
Right.
Which by keeping it open, if we wouldn't get enrollment, or we do stay 5 days and don't move people over and try to get some cost savings, and that's really going to eat into any new monies that we would get. That would then ultimately go on to like salaries and anything like that. There just wouldn't be anything. We have some this year because of the cuts that we've already made, but that would essentially be absorbed by the losses from Central.
But either way, if we keep the building, we're gonna have to do geothermal roofing.
At some
Is that
point.
right? Like, what is some point, 3 to 5 years, 1 to 2
can't tell you
years,
how
or
long
starting
that-
next week? What are we like?
I mean, I can't tell you. The roofing, we can give a more accurate, but the geothermal, it could last 10 more years. It could go out in 6 months.
Yeah.
We just know that what they were originally told, so none of us were here when it was originally put in, but they were told that it was like a 15 to 18 year kind of lifespan on it. And we're starting to reach that. We do have some issues with it periodically that do get fixed, but for how long that can go on, I don't know.
What is the estimated cost for that? Have we even looked at that?
We haven't gotten that far yet, but to put it in, it was over $1 million. Yeah, 15 to 18 years ago. So it's definitely gone up just like everything else. I'll tell you, it's not going to be cheaper than that.
Right.
And we kind of, Robbie and I had a talk today that, maybe maybe it's not replaced with geothermal.
Right.
Yeah,
that
Brian
is
just says
not-
potbelly stoves and everybody cuts firewood on Mondays.
Got it.
He's gonna keep
I
it
brought
running
in dollars 15 years ago. You can't afford it today.
But again, if we got rid of the geothermal and replaced it
there's more costs associated with that because those wells, I think there's 45 wells.
Yep.
And they all have the glycol in them, so then you have to have that removed, and that's not cheap either.
I think the EP should fill those wells too.
Yeah.
You can't just leave them.
Definitely, yes, have cost there, which is why.
So those are all things, I guess, that we need to start thinking about, looking at for our next public meeting.
Do you guys have any other questions or discussion on that?
Is it a fair assessment to say that probably the decision on Wolf Lake might hinge on the 4-day week?
Is it either or can they do both? That's my question. Is it either or a 4-day week or close Wolf Lake, or is it can do both?
I think we want to do one at a time. To
Well,
see,
one of them saving us anywhere from 100 to 175 grand. I'm hearing 50 to 75 grand or more. So that's a no-brainer. You get twice the savings. And you don't get the same heartache either way.
Well, if we want to do a 4-day week, what's the soonest possible time we can actually apply and see what happens?
So if eventually after the next work session and you wanted to do it, and Mr. Stuck, correct me if I'm wrong, we would apply, start like in December-ish, they would review it in the spring. So we'd know in the spring whether that passed or not. If it didn't, then you have a like 28-day window to fix anything that they had questions about to see again.
And if we did that, Robbie, we would have some kind of help, like, I guess that's the other thing. So if we go to a 4-day week, then that 5th day, we've got babysitting issues for tons of people.
That's where we would have to, if we started going that way, we'd have to start looking at partnerships with our own daycare, with YMCA, with high school students, like however we could try to help offset some of that.
And we get a better feel after a survey that would be sent out to feel how many
Yes,
possible that would
we
affect.
could have a survey go out later this week to staff and parents, that would just get some data collection that we could bring back, at the next public work session.
In the micro school, that would not be at Wolf Lake because of issues with like college courses and stuff.
I mean, it would
We would house it, I mean, given the choice, we'd house it in our building so that they had direct access to regular education classrooms for those high school schedules.
I know we can't make decisions, but can we authorize the survey tonight? So if you would want us to move forward to do a survey, we can get that survey completely together and get it out sometime later this week, early next week, and then we could have those survey results at the next.
That sounds like a good starting point. Based on what the community feels like on all these issues.
Yes, sir.
Could I just ask Beth if you could do a micro school 4 days a week?
Yeah, I said you could.
Yep.
You were playing with your camera when you said
I was getting your picture.
This isn't his good side.
That's so it is feasible
It's
to,
Heather.
Heather, sorry. Okay.
I think there are some things we'd have to think about, like impact, that would be a 5-day-a-week thing, so there would still, if kids chose to be an impact, they would have to know that they would still
Follow
have to
that
go
schedule.
that morning or work-based learning, which lots of them will be already on the work-based learning part of it.
But the impact would not be an issue because days off, if somebody cancels, somebody doesn't, we still have to go anyhow to impacts.
Unless it's seasonal.
Unless it's seasonal, yeah.
I'm sorry, but are you gonna hear from the public anytime?
That's next on the agenda.
Good.
I think so. Do you have any other?
Guys ready? Thanks for hanging in there. Went a little longer than we've expected here, but we'll go to public comment. As a reminder, comments remain respectful, refocused, and centered on long-term success of the district. And while your input is valuable and carefully considered, this portion is not intended for open dialogue or debate. Comments per board policy are limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 20 minutes overall, unless our board would choose to extend that time frame. We currently have 12 people signed up. It would be 36 minutes. Would you guys like to extend that so that everyone can speak?
Yeah, I think that would be fair.
All right. You'll be called on in the order that you signed in, and then if you go over your 3 minutes, I will cut you off. Sorry, I have to do. All right, first we'll have Rachel Custer. And if you guys could go to the microphone, unless you feel like you can project your voice, that's fine.
My name is Rachel Custer. Is that on? Okay. And this is Jacqueline Steinman. She's my daughter. And she's a student here. And I want to say that this morning, I think, was it this morning or yeah, this morning she went to school bawling and begging not to go. She does that several mornings, often a week or a month probably, and begs us not to go because she feels that she can't. She has panic disorder and is terrified of the school building and of the school environment. When I told her about the meeting I had with Mrs. Lemon and the micro school idea, I saw hope and joy about the possibility of school and learning in her eyes for the first time since she's been in school. She said, I told her not to get her hopes up, and she said they're already up. And that she desperately, she didn't say desperately, but I saw that she desperately hopes that this idea will be tried and implemented. My companion and I feel the same. That is an idea that I feel like will work for Jacqueline in a way that traditional schooling has not, for various reasons, health-wise and with situations with other kids at the school. And I just wanted to come tonight and support Mrs. Lemon and support the idea and support the board in being open to that idea. I really appreciate your willingness to hear that idea. And I wanted to say we have looked into homeschooling, we have looked into private schooling, we have looked into any other option. We don't want to have her sitting in front of she goes to school half days now. We don't want to have her sitting in front of a computer all day long, which is what a lot of those schooling options have turned out to be. And we can't afford private schooling. This is what we want and need for our daughter's education. I am convinced. Please, please, please be open to this idea.
As my mom said, I am Jacqueline Simon, and I am really hopeful for this idea. As my mom stated, I have panic disorder, and it is extremely hard for me to go to school on a day-to-day basis, and it's even hard for me to stay half day. And I just hope that you guys will really listen to what Mrs. Lemon has to say and hear her out.
Thank you. All right, next we have Mary Ziegler. Vicki Jellison.
Hi, my name is Vicki Jellison. I'm a graduate of Central Noble. We've had 4 students go through the Central, our 4 children went through the Central Noble school system. I've played a lot of roles in the community, and I want to share some of the ideas that I've had from those. As a parent, one of my greatest fears was having children who did not want to go to school. I loved school. I think it was more the social aspect than the academic. But my husband and I worked very hard to help our children enjoy school. And we think they got a good education at Central Noble. I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. We have 3 grandchildren that will all come to Central Noble. I have had hundreds of children in this community go through my home for daycare. Many of them, I'm the last adult they see when they go out to school in the morning, and the first one that they, like family, that they return at the end of the day. And I think it's very important that I take part in that. One of my greatest accomplishments is when I'm remembered for graduation parties, because that's been years after they're no longer in my home. But I feel that gives me a part of their education as they went along. And I heard Gabe speak tonight, and I wasn't sure what I was going to talk about, but when he brought up proactive communication, as a parent, classroom teachers' communication was vital. That was the make it or break it for me as a parent, what we got back from them. And that goes to building administration, the central office. And I want to talk a little bit about where that goes now. I know it's a very big disappointment to all of you in the school system that the referendum was voted against. But I'm here to tell you, I am on the Albion School, the Albion Town Council. I take that very seriously. The town of Albion, I don't believe, has one person in our community that does not want a good education for our students. This is a very tight-knit community, but proactive communication can make or break it. Lots of things. And I truly believe that's what hurt the referendum. I'm not to criticize what was done and not done, but I just think that was a vital piece of why it was voted down. And a lot of people aren't educated, especially a lot of people made that vote that don't even have students in the school. I no longer have students in the school, and I have grandchildren, but I don't always feel like I know what's going on either. As a town council member, I'm asking you, when you make major changes within the school corporation, please be proactively communicating with the community partners that you have, and that is the town. A year ago, we had some bus changes or the closing of Cougar Court. That came to us after the decision was made, and it made it much more challenging for us to be good partners. This year, we had that with the loss of a bus route. I'm just asking that you please proactively communicate with all of those that you're partnered with. That's students, parents, the community. And I'm also, one other comment that I want to make, as a town council member, housing is very important in our community, but housing is not going to make or break this. We have farmers that don't want to give up their land, and where would we be if we didn't have farmers? You know, we can't go out and just pay any amount of money. We are very limited on how we can even try to get land or work with builders. We are doing a lot. It takes a lot of time, but that is not the key answer to the challenges that we face, not only as a community, but as a school system. So I thank all of you. I know what it's like to have these positions that are usually not appreciated. People have no idea the amount of time that you put into these things. I'm standing here. There's other council members. I see at least 4 of us total. There might be the 5th one. We care about our community, or we wouldn't be doing the same jobs that you're doing. But I ask that you work with everyone, from parents all the way to the entire community, proactively with good communication.
Next is Jody Jordan.
I'm not going to take a lot of time. This is an accumulation of many, many people, as you can see. First off, I just want to clarify a few things. I want to be able to put a few things together and send it to you so that you have it in front of you. The one thing that we talked about if we close Wolf Lake is that we'd have room for 3 teachers per grade level, 3 sped rooms, 2 open rooms for specials. Right now, if you would do that, we were going to have about 30 kids per classroom. I don't know if you're aware of how many kids we have per class right now, but that it would be increasing those numbers. And as an educator, and I love my kids, I love what I do, it just can be a lot. It can be a lot. When you start getting those numbers up and up and up, it increases. And if our enrollment goes up, which I'm hoping does, I would see us having close to 30 kids per class. And I think that's a concern if we close the primary school, is one of our biggest concerns. And I would like to bring to you a possible nature micro school that we could do through Wolf Lake, at Wolf Lake Primary. And we want to know, several of us have one other question here, somebody wrote it. They want to know if are we able to fundraise at this point? If we would come up with some things and brought it to you for some major fundraising. We've had lots of people approach us and wanted to know if that would be possible, or even write grants to help offset some funding.
I mean, we could take fundraising and we can absolutely write grants. Those things are always options. I will say some of our grant funding right now is challenging. So if there are grants out there that can be applied for, absolutely send them our way. And fundraising, that can be tricky, because if you're needing, 100,000 up to 300,000 to help fix our operating budget, that is hard to fundraise. So while the answer is yes, we can do those things, it's challenging to do those things.
I just know that this has been brought to us, and so I guess I got nominated to speak.
For clarifications, are you offering to fundraise or expecting these people to do more fundraising?
No, well, no. It would be a community type of thing.
But you're not asking more out of these folks?
You folks?
Not us. The administrators, you're offering to help with that. Or whoever is in your list, not you particular. But
Yeah, I've got all kinds of stuff, like suggestions, ways that we can fundraise, and maybe even consider other ways. And like I said, I will type this up very nicely, because I know you don't want to see my chicken scratches and other people giving me things. So it would be all put together to you with some ideas that us as the educators here in our corporation and community members have brought to myself and to other people, thinking that they want to help. They want to do more. And I think this is something that we could do, and together we can do.
Type it up and send it to us.
I'm
Please,
sorry.
type it up and send it to us.
Okay, absolutely.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right, next is Corey Sexton.
Good evening, board members. If you don't know me, my name is Corey Sexton. I served as a special education paraprofessional here at Central Noble for 3 years. I'm also the wife of Pastor Ben, who happens to be the district's only active substitute bus driver, and who actively leads our church to serve and support this school district. We've had 2 children graduate from Central Noble, including my oldest, who had a 504 plan. And we currently have 2 students still attending the district who are in our high ability program. I share this with you so you understand my heart for this district not just comes from the outside looking in, but from my deep connectedness as a parent, former staff member, and I'm part of a family that still serves here. I understand the financial pressure that the district is in, and I can see how a 4-day work week in a school week might look like a solution on paper, but I worry deeply about the students who will pay the greatest price if we move in this direction. Many of the children I worked with came from low-income homes. School was not just about academics. It's not just about numbers. It was where they received stability, meals, structure, love, and a sense of belonging. And my favorite thing was hallway hugs. For them, removing 1 day of school each week just isn't about taking away class time. It isn't about saving money. It's taking away support, consistency, and safety. Those are the very students who need us most to show up 5 days a week. I also need to speak on behalf of the staff who I still love, who serves these children every day. One of the reasons I personally left this district was due to low compensation I received as a paraprofessional. Paraprofessionals are among the least compensated employees, and if their hours are cut further, how many more good ones will we lose? They are the people who walk alongside our most at-risk students, and they deserve stability as well. I urge you to consider the long-term costs, not just the short-term savings. Saving money on the budget cannot come at the expense of our students' academic growth, social development, and basic needs, or at the expense of the very staff who support them. I truly thank you for your time, and please know that I pray for every one of you by name, because these are difficult choices that you have to make.
I didn't thank you, Jody. Next is Jonathan Sieber. Left. Okay. Anna Glowinski. Okay. Ashley Laddick.
A lot of, some of my questions were answered, which I am very grateful for. But this is my first school board meeting, but I've attended board meetings for my hospital multiple times, as well as IRB meetings. So I know what is discussed here is high stakes, very emotionally charged, really hard decisions. And I respect the work that you all are doing, as well as the speakers that brought solutions to the table, because they're not easy decisions to make, and we've got to make moves, and I understand that. My child isn't in this district. I choose to bring her here because not only is this a legacy for us, but it's because I believe in this community, and I believe in this school, and I believe in the people in this room. I just want my feedback to just be heard. My thoughts are coming from a desire for transparency from this team and this group, and that we are looking at the input from those most impacted. There's no such thing as too much communication. If I know nothing from being in healthcare, there's no such thing as too much communication. And I think that's something that we can work on as a whole. I'm asking this group to leverage the talent of this community and the strengths of the teachers, administration, and board members in this space. And I think with that, we can come up with a viable solution that will provide the least amount of impact, negative impact on the community, and keep our kids in the school, because this really is the best place to be. Thank you.
Next will be Scott Heil. No, you're good. Scott Ziegler.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. I'm a 1986 graduate of Central Noble, proud Cougar, and appreciate everything that the board does. I'm an engineer by trade, land surveyor technically, but still in the engineering field. And one thing a couple of things that engineering has taught me is, one, I never like the word no. There's always a solution to problems. Scott can maybe testify to that too. I mean, as engineers, we pride ourselves in the fact that we can solve problems. And I mean, for goodness sakes, we put a man on the moon, right, with slide rules. We can certainly solve a 4-day work week, or micro schools or whatever. And understand that there may be issues with that, but I think we can solve those. I'm also a Noble Township trustee, and I think it's imperative that we do everything we possibly can to keep Wolf Lake open. I think closing Wolf Lake is going to have a very negative impact on the community, certainly on Wolf Lake, and I think could be a nail in the coffin to the school district. I think with Northern Heights only a couple of miles away from Noble Township, we could easily see, students from the southern part of Noble Township moving over to that school. So I think we need to be very, very creative in trying to attract students. Your two proposals here tonight, I think, excellent. The 4-day week and the micro school, I support the micro school 100%. We homeschooled our oldest 4 kids. I think, there's a lot of advantage to small school situations that have, that are very attractive to parents. And I think both of these proposals not only save money, but they bring revenue in. And I think you need both of those to survive. So I would very strongly encourage you to pursue both of these with open minds, to find out what those problems are, the issues that parents might have with daycare. Try to involve the community. Maybe churches can get involved, people, volunteers, whatever. There's got to be a solution to finding daycare for these people 1 day a week if the 4-day is as advantageous as what it appears. And all the research, I think, it supports that as well too. Micro schools, I'll do whatever I can help Heather on that. I think a great idea from a business standpoint. I think anything we can do to get our kids more educated and more prepared to go into the workforce is going to be great from employment. I work a lot of manufacturers in Lake County. They're hungry for people to come out of these schools that can be plugged right into their operations. They're willing to work with schools all across the board. So I think there's a lot of community support out there for this. So I just encourage you. I think as business leaders, we're more than willing to be supportive of solutions for this one. To see some mobile open and do everything and keep Wolf Lake open as well too. So thank you.
Great, and our last person will be Chris Magnuson. Last but certainly not least.
Hello, Chris Madison, Town Councilwoman. Okay, I'll make this so brief. Bonding. I don't know if school bonding is like municipal bonding, but the lawyer fees and all that is so unbelievably high. I don't know if it's like that municipally, if it's like that for the school, but it is extremely expensive from the municipal side in the fees for doing that, for bonding. But I don't know how it is for you guys. But you said, Robbie, about you guys did get some lit money and you're gonna lose that in 28, just like we are. How much was that again? Like 20?
Just under 200,000.
200. Well, we're in that boat too with you.
So there is some legislation that they're looking at going back and fixing that, but I don't know. And that's gonna be.
Well, Carol Selby, our clerk treasurer, says that we can petition the county annually for that. But you have to adopt every year during your budget process. Am I on the right track? Right. If the county adopts a rate, we have to do it annually, and we have to petition them annually.
So I'm not sure. We'll look into it. We know that that was part of it, but I don't know that that's an option for schools.
But if you don't adopt it and you don't petition them, your amount's always gonna be zero.
So what I'm saying, I don't think they let schools do that. They do let city government.
Actually, it says here on this thing that I just looked up, it says non-municipal units under 3,500 population, you would be a non-municipal unit, can petition the county for the dollars.
We'll look into it. I don't believe it's for schools, but we could be wrong. We'll look into it.
Well, it says non-municipal unit, so it says you could do it annually if the county adopts a lit rate. So first they have to adopt it. Right, I'm encouraging you to do it. Okay, so we're gonna do that. Also, are you gonna entertain another referendum or are you gonna give up? I don't know how much the last one cost you. But, I think if you would have been informed informed correctly the first time, I think you might have been misled a little bit from the county's point on what you could and could not do, what the cost was and things like that. And that I think if the public would have been more informed, I think you might have had better results, okay? That's just my own opinion. So I'm encouraging you not to give up. And I think that's it. And no applause is necessary.
All right. That concludes the public comment. Thank you for your participation. This went a little bit longer than we even expected, but I think it was productive. Next steps will be the business office going through things. Robbie, do you want to give a quick summary or?
Let Kim look at some of the numbers that they had asked for. We'll look at the survey to go out to staff and parents with that, and then probably we'll talk more with Ms. Lemon, well, a little bit further in depth. We'll come back and talk about those results and that stuff in November 3rd.
November 3rd, here, 5 o'clock.
Not October 6th.
Not October 6th.
I had all the things in my calendar. That one was wrong.
You have a question?
Yeah, will this survey have questions on it that will be pertinent to people who aren't staff or don't have children? Because I know when the town recently did one like on our building on Orange Street, people who maybe don't reside in Albion, but they own a business in Albion, like myself, I wouldn't have the opportunity to do that survey, but I don't know what kind of questions you're going to ask. So I would encourage you, if those questions are broad enough for people other than staff and parents, include the entire community. If it's out there and they opt not to do it, that's their choice, but so I don't know what kind of questions you're going to ask, but if it's things that
Other schools that have moved to it, what questions that they've asked of their parents, community, and that. We'll try to get that up.
you know,
Maybe we
it
could
takes a
separate
village.
more than one.
It takes a village, and I know there are a lot of grandparents in this community that really want to be an active part of their grandchildren's education. We need to allow them to do that when they can.
Sorry, our messenger service.
Not mail.
I don't know, we'll be able to get it out and get it back.
Right here's an option. The town used that.
She's assigning you work. Let's say how she did that.
That's fine. You tell me the website to, it's gonna be on the website when it's on there, let me know.
Thank you for wanting to help. Even after I made fun of you.
Okay, I think that wraps everything up. We appreciate everybody being here this evening. As a reminder, no decisions were made tonight. This is just open discussion. A lot of work to be done, and we'll come back again November 3rd here. If there's no other discussion from the board, Andy, you can go ahead and close this up.
Meeting adjourned, 7:27 p. Thank you.